Tech Snippets Today with Joseph Raczynski.
Anton Marchanka, CEO at Zing Coach. Welcome.
Hello, welcome to see.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to this. So let me take a moment sort of to set the stage for what we're about to talk today about. The way that I like to think about this a little bit is like, is the SaaS model dead? Perhaps. Well, whether you know this or not, SaaS stands for software as a service. It's primarily what most people use to interact with applications and software in general these days on the web. And then with the advent of AI, that might be changing a little bit. So with good fortune today, we have Anton, who has over a decade of experience leading $100 million portfolios of 20 different mobile products that reach over 600 million users worldwide. Anton has tons of insights into what's happening right now for specifically app development, as well as what it takes to create a successful app and what the ongoing tendencies are for users as well as their psychological headspace, I would say, in this area. So, Anton, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. What I'd really like to understand first, as I always do this with people, because to me, it sort of level sets on what brought you into the company, why you wanted to be a part of it, but your backstory. So, what led you along that path towards becoming, I guess, eventually CEO at Zing?
Um, yeah, thank you so much for inviting. Thanks so much for a great introduction. I really appreciate it. So, my story actually started when I was not really a kid, but maybe when I was in my university and college days. It was very interesting. Not very interesting story. So, literally, my biggest intention was I need to get some money, and I was thinking like where I can do that. And I was literally thinking what I can, like bring to the world specifically. And I was thinking that maybe going to do some advertising or IT work will be the best place. So, and that's how I appeared, first of all, at advertising agencies. So I worked a lot as a copywriter and creative producer for a pretty long time with a bigger brand. So, for example, I did the commercials for McDonald's, I did a commercial for Ford. And after that, I just decided that, hey, there's a whole new emerging world of mobile applications. So way back to us in 2014. And I decided that I potentially can use my experience, can use my knowledge to go into there. So I started my career as a mobile marketing manager and grew to the position of vice president marketing at one of the companies under the IC in New York. And during my time there, at some point of time, they offered me at different positions within the IC network to just take different businesses. One of them was a daily burn, which still exists in here. I know that in the United States, it's not maybe super hype and popular brand, but it's definitely recognizable. And I led that business for almost 2.5 years since starting the COVID. We've done a lot of interesting things. I was very into that. And that was a pivotal moment for myself when I understood that, like the digital product could do a very big change to the world, because previously I was working only with utility products like, I don't know, coloring books, like weather forecasts, scanner applications. And at Daily Burn, we have a very great community of users. And at that time, I was just, in a very deep touch with people who are changing the lives, specifically with the fitness. And at the same point of time, I got my first kid. And I started to go to the gym regularly because I get an idea that in order to be able to hold him in my hands, I still need to, lift some weights because he's getting bigger every single month.
Yeah.
And eventually I appeared in a situation where I was doing a lot of different consulting stuff, and I know very good the founders of the Zing company, the most of the investors there. And at some point of time when the previous founder and the CEO decided to, concentrate more on her other ventures, on her family, we decided that this will be a best and a perfect match for me to join the company and start doing things. In
Fantastic.
addition to this, I would, yeah.
Yeah, please go. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, this is just a wider story, but specifically Zing, and if talk about like Zing specifically, what actually bring me to that specific company is that for the past maybe year and a half, I became like a great amateur of everything which is connected to AI, like artificial intelligence. I spent a ton of my own personal time and money, like building different products, et cetera, et cetera. And at Zing, I just understood that they are literally doing and performing the same vision as I have in my own head. And I thought that it would be for me the perfect match because like the company is already operating in the field, which I personally like. And the company is literally sharing the same values as I personally have. And they are right now looking for a new leader, which I personally am. So we decided like to match the thing, and literally right now looks like it's a good match. So we're working on a pretty interesting things, and maybe we'll talk about them in a details.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I appreciate the background. That definitely helps. So what is Zing Coach? Help people understand what that is first.
Yeah, to be honest, in a like to kind of narrow it down in a very very short concept. So at Zinc, we're trying to recreate a real personal trainer experience through the digital platform in this case. To give it a little bit more detail, so right now we do have a market when a lot of the fitness applications out there. One application is helping you to do workouts, and other applications help you to, I don't know, like feel better with doing at home trainings. Some applications help you to do nutrition, like Noom, like MyFitnessPal, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of different shades of fitness currently in their world. The only thing which is missing right now is the applications and the products which specifically delivers a very high level of retention, trust, and engagement for users. And when I'm talking about this, I'm not telling that, for example, MyFitnessPal or like Freeletics or Strava, they don't have a great product, one of the greatest in the world. But if we will compare those products to the real life personal trainers, the guys who you meet in the gym, their engagement and their retention rate is, to the roof. It's literally much better. And at Zinc, 5 years ago, there was an initial idea that can we use technology to replicate this? Can we use technology to make sure that we can make the digital product be as sticky and as engaging as a real person? And for everybody who's working in that market, we all know that the motivation of users is a main problem. And literally right now, we're trying to solve it. We were trying to do it in different manners, but specifically like 2 years ago, there was a pivotal moment when we just realized that technology is evolved at a level which can literally amplify whatever fitness experience. And as I said, like we were initially targeting the AI market, it was a little bit different. Right now, we're not even targeting the AR market. We're literally operating as an AI agent, as a bigger AI product. And we specifically right now trying to build a product which will not specifically copy the personal trainer, but outperform that trainer, because current technology actually allows us to build relations with users, to give them advices and to build the programs to them at a much higher level than even like a top-notch personal trainers.
All right, this is amazing. I really appreciate the way that you frame that up, because that's exactly the direction that I want to sort of go in. And the idea that, all right, here's the use case. Use case is really about personal fitness and beyond. I know there's a lot of other components there. But how people are now interacting with these applications. I mean, as you guys are starting to leverage AI, so what does that look like? How do we get more people on board and make it stickier? Like what's the change over the last few years or even last 6 months that allows people to be drawn towards these applications like yours? And how are you all building that out? And without giving away too much of the secret sauce, but just the general mentality of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. And in this case, I would say that this is not kind of secret sauce. Secret sauce is the work of the exact team, like engineers, product managers, UX researchers. But I will just share like a high level concept of what specifically we're thinking of. And I would say that the main idea of Zing Coach, and I think that during the next 5 years, we will see a lot of changes in the way how people is building the digital products, is actually based on the fact that AI is a pivotal moment for a lot of products around the world. I mean, like after the ChatGPT was released by OpenAI, like a lot of things changed. Right now, you're facing AI in most of the products you're working with. For example, email products from Google, email products from Microsoft. So right now, you can chat with Gemini or somebody else in a lot of products. Literally, like a lot of coding platforms is right now using AI to help them do that. And for example, Facebook and other bigger corporations, they announced a lot of even layoffs because they're transferring to the AI. I mean, like it's not that good for the niche. There's a lot of people losing their jobs, but specifically, this is a very good sign how AI is literally already transforming the niche. And when we're talking about the consumer products right now, not about like the bigger foundational models, what I can see is that specifically AI brings us to the new world and changes little things, but so dramatically that potentially we will see a very different future. Maybe not us, but potentially definitely our kids. And when I'm talking about this, so to date, most of the products, specifically in the fitness niche, were built on a cohort basis. What does it mean? It means that our computational power was not enough to create a really personalized product. So in order to create a personalized product, we were creating cohorts. So we were using different, like product management techniques like user personas, jobs to be done frameworks, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of different, agile practices in there. But the point was we need to narrow the overall majority of users to one segment and create a product for this specific segment. So for example, if an application right now, even like a top-notch application like Spotify and Netflix, telling you that, for example, you, Joseph, you must like this series, etc. That doesn't mean that it's specifically you will like it. It means that we know that people within the same cohort as you in our analytical system potentially likes this thing, but at some point of time you feel that Netflix doesn't understand you enough because sometimes it's missing, etc., etc. What actually happening with AI right now provides you a technical possibility to target a very specific user. So when you're, for example, chatting with ChatGPT or with Gemini or with any other platform, it's chatting with you directly. It's not, treats you as a cohort of users. It's treats you like a user, like a specific person. And the computational power and the current level of technology allows us to make this thing happen in real life. So it literally looks like a hyper personalization. And what we do at Zing, we trying to utilize this experience. We're trying to utilize this new technological leap and amplify it with the data around it. So we have a very, very I would say like enormous amount of data. We have like millions of fully tracked workouts. We have millions of fully tracked workouts with full data from user. Like we know, for example, what was your heart rate when you were lifting like 12 pounds of weights for your biceps, et cetera, et cetera. And we like streamline those data in our AI agents to specifically generate this hyper personalized experience. And what is different from any other application, so as I said, like this specific experience is literally giving you a hyper-personalized thing. So we're not treating you as a cohort of users. We're not telling that, hey, for example, like my training program will be similar to males 35, my age, like my body composition, etc. We're telling that my program will be specifically tailored to myself with my own right knees hurts, with my own like body problems, my own nutrition, and the application will know like how good I sleep, how bad I eat, etc., etc. It gives me a personalized communication. And for example, a couple of months ago, we launched those morning check-ins and much deeper personality for our AI coach, which specifically almost doubled the interaction of the user. So users feel that personalization, they feel that hyper-personalized approach, and they react on this because they like when application not only treats you like a one among the others, but it treats you like the one and unique. And our goal specifically is to technologically amplify all those experience to make sure that the product is specifically being designed to make this thing happen, and even better. So it's not like even a little bit on top of that.
Wow, that was an amazing explanation. To me, it sounds like, if I were to take a step back, the ultimate cookie. Because
almost. It's very
we've,
similar to this.
it's like, if you talk about hyper personalization, it knows everything about you. It knows what your preferences are, what your interests are based by analytics, all that stuff. So it's pulling that back, and of course, you're applying algorithms on top of that to further hone it. But no, all right, very, very cool. So maybe slightly different, but connected to this. What are your takes on like the vibe coding world now? Do you think that that's something that's beneficial? Do you think that that's sort of watering down and diluting what you all are sort of building, that sort of thing?
In this case, I would say that all the things about like those wipe coding and etc. stuff, I would say that it's definitely a good thing to do, because like normally this is just an evolution of a process, and I'm trying to think about this like how to say like 100 years ago when Henry Ford introduced his Model T, everybody who was I would say I don't know how to say riding horses, driving horse wagons, they just lost their jobs in the decade, because like before that humanity was riding horses for 2,000 years and even more, and within a decade everybody just right now riding cars, and that's how it works. The same thing potentially will happen right now, but the world just doesn't stop because everybody decided not to ride a horse but to drive a car. And I think the same thing will happen with the AI. And I know a lot of people who potentially was a little bit skeptical about this, but for example, every single designer who I talk to is right now using Midjourney or like OpenAI. Every single developer who I talk to is right now using Cursor or any other like thing which helps him to code. And in this case, this works pretty well because it's definitely how to say like helps us to be more efficient in terms of time we're spending on tasks. And they're outsourcing a lot of things to AI, but they're still maintaining the mainframe. So they're still maintaining the architecture decisions, they're still making a lot of creativity around that. And the only thing which has happened is that they're just getting a tool which helps them to, I would say, like omit all the work which is not that creative and just focus on the really creative solutions. In this case, I would say at the Daily Burn Times, we have a very nice discussion around the like the interaction and the engagement of our developers into the product work. And one of the developers he actually stood up and said a very nice phrase. I'm literally like want everybody to hear. He said that the world is being split between code writers and value developers. So there's people who are just writing code, and there's people who are developing value. And for me, it is a very interesting way of thinking, as I said, like about like all those like hype coding, et cetera, because definitely ChatGPT at some point of time will substitute all people who just write code, because he's literally doing that. But he potentially will never substitute people who create value, because in this case, as I said, like right now, based on the latest research, our AI is not that kind of artificial intelligence in general, sense of things, but it's just, helping us to execute tasks, but it cannot substitute human in being creative. And in this case, it's a great amplification. As I said, and I encourage everybody to use it. Literally, like even in Zing right now, we're almost obligatory telling our developers to utilize AI solutions, and that's speed up the process. But in general, I don't think that in the next maybe 5 or 10 years, there will be a major shift and people will be massively losing jobs or something. It will be just a transformation.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. Okay. I appreciate that. So I'm trying to, I guess, digest some of it. I think I get all of what you're saying, but there's one or two components that I'm just a little more curious about. So, vibe coding, of course, anybody can do. Basically, just you're able to go onto an application and make a request, just like in ChatGPT, whatever, and you're starting to build something out. And I've seen people do things that were like within 3 days, it would normally take a year, 2 years to build out, which is fantastic. But just for clarification, are you saying that you don't see much change in terms of coders over the next 5 or 10 years, or you think there will be disruption to that space?
In terms of disruption, as I said, like I still think that there will be a very big difference in terms of the people and in terms of programmers and coders who are in the market. Because how to say, we know that there was a rule which was set up in, I think, in 90s, with every single year or a single major pivotal moment, there will be 2 times more new programmers in the world, which means that at every moment in time we have at least 50% of our coders who are juniors, and only 50% who are like middle seniors and beyond. And in this case, I think GPT is specifically maybe even amplifies the speed of that change. So maybe like the next year, it'll be like 60% of total coder base who will be juniors with the help of the ChatGPT, etc. But the main thing here is that, as I said, like specifically, there is a very big difference in terms of solutions those coders could implement to the market. And everybody could learn code. So for example, myself, I just, have a very humanitarian background. I was a foreign international relations student, and I can do coding with ChatGPT. I mean, like I can ask him to do stuff, I can ask him things, but at some point of time, when we're talking about the very complex systems, when we're talking about the very complex and abstract architecture, it brings the understanding that there is a natural limitation for vibe coders, which they cannot surpass because they don't have a decent mathematical background. And they, for example, do not know how algorithm is working. They do not know about the memory management. They do not know all the things, for example, which normal people is getting for the 4 years at MIT. And this is, I would say, like the pivotal ground when we will have a ton of the vibe coders, but there will be definitely tasks which could not be completed just because you can use the ChatGPT. And that's why I'm telling that, yes, definitely there'll be a lot of junior people and even more who could code and who could code pretty good with the help of ChatGPT. But we will still have at least half of people who will have those fundamental knowledge about the systems, who will have those fundamental mathematical background, like an abstract background, which could not be substituted right now specifically by ChatGPT. And potentially, maybe within the next 5 years, it will, definitely will develop, and then some point of time it will be definitely better. But I think by the time it will develop itself to that level, we will have much more complex and much more abstract systems in this case. So, and as I said, like this is not the first time when people is being challenged by technology. And as I said, like most of the companies who is doing layoffs of the past couple of years, they are not doing those because like they're completely substituting people with ChatGPT. As I said, like they are just substituting like the low impact or low level jobs with ChatGPT because it's definitely cheaper, and that's how it goes. But that doesn't mean that they're just firing top-notch programmers. No, they're just leaving them. They're just, removing juniors and substituting them. Not I would say like this is not even substituting the ChatGPT. I think in most cases you're not substituting a real person. You're just removing a person who is doing a manual work because that manual work could be done by a senior person plus ChatGPT, and that thing makes it a little bit more efficient.
Okay.
It
Really
shortens the
interesting.
time of communication, etc. So as I said, like in this case, in general, I don't think there will be like a major pivot. I don't think that by the time which we will create a real general artificial intelligence, which not only would have a reasoning, but would also have a creativity to create some new solutions to work on a complex architecture, to be abstract. These jobs are in danger. As I said, like definitely 50% of time, like 50% of programmers is at risk every single year since the beginning. But another 50%, which is non-juniors, they're definitely in a much more stable position.
Okay, very nice. Okay, I appreciate that. So, as we sort of bridge over to AI agents, what role do they play right now for you all, if they do? And if not, then going forward, how do you see developers interacting with agents to sort of build new, more complex, involved, hyper-targeted content or applications?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in this case, that's a very interesting topic because we're discussing AI agents pretty frequently inside Zing. And I would say that we have a very different opinions in terms of what specifically could be called an AI agent. There's a long and a list of different approaches on the market, specifically what you could call an AI agent. In myself, this is a very interesting thing. I really like different types of cultural references in this case. And when I was thinking about AI agents, I found a very interesting piece of mythology from Japan. It's called Tsukomogami. It has an interesting concept, so whatever, you could just Google it or just go to Wikipedia about this. But the whole idea here is that in Japan mythology, if the tool, for example, like a hammer you're working with, it's been used for a pretty long time. So, for example, you use that hammer for 3 decades in your family. It at some point of time should achieve its soul, like something, and maybe personalized, and this becomes a live hammer or something like this. In a European country or like United States culture, the best reference will be, if you remember, like the Beauty and the Beast, like Lumiere and other things, which was literally like a living tools around the castle. So what I'm talking about this is that in my understanding, what is being called in AI agents is specifically uh, these things when have kinda a soul. And in this case, AI specifically gives not the full soul, but at least a partial soul to the tools which we're using. And for me, the AI agent is a tool which specifically could be utilized by you to perform certain actions on your behalf, which has a couple of very important, I would say, like parts and very important features in it. So the first definitely is an ability to perform tasks. Second one is an ability to decide on that task, so it's a reasoning. And the third thing is my own personal favor in this case. I don't think that a lot of people is thinking about it. I really want that thing to be a human. I really wanted to have a personality. So as I said, like for me, AI agent is technically a tool which has its own reasoning, which can perform tasks. And on top of that, I would say that it potentially will need to have a little bit of a personalization and humification in order for you as a user and for me as a human being to at least feel okay using it. So, because right now most of the communication by the agents is happening through the chat when we're trying to mimic human to human collaboration and human to human communication. And that's why it's very important for us to feel that this is a human. And I think like lots of people around the world that are doing this. I mean, like you potentially know that Sam Altman, maybe months or 2 months ago, went up to the public and said, "Could you please stop being polite with chat
Yes,
because it
it's
has
cost us
nothing to
money.
do with its utility, but it's spent so much money and
Yeah.
resources on our side." But I think as I said, like this is a great advice in terms of efficiency, but I think this is a great sign of the trend, what people really need from the chat and what people really need from agents. They don't want them to be a very, very machinery thing. They want them to be a little bit more human. They want them to, joke a little bit. They want them to give you some kind of a feedback. So for me, AI agent is all about this.
It's funny that you say that. You bring up the Sam Altman example of what he said because it was costing the company like tens of millions of dollars because people are saying thank you at the end, which I do. And then at the very end of that conversation, what he said, someone asked the question like, well, do you understand why this could be important? He's like, actually, I do, because in the future, it might be at a point where the super intelligence is like, okay, who was thankful? Who wasn't? Whatever. It's funny, but it's also maybe not. So, all right, the last question, because we're short on time, is I would love to hear your thoughts on so AR, augmented intelligence, VR, virtual reality, and some people call mixed reality MR. That space, when you start thinking about people building things, when you start thinking about even your company at Zing Coach, what does that look like? Because it's a total, in my opinion, it's got to be a bit of a shift in how things are built and what they look like and all those things. What does that look like in your mind's eye at this stage?
Oh, like in this stage, I would say it's a very early stage, to be honest. And literally, my own perception here is I'm very, very I was like into the Apple announcement.
Yeah.
And for example, a couple of years ago, when they initially introduced the Vision Pro, for me, it was a very great confirmation of the fact that overall smartphone market right now is a little bit stagnating. So we're not increasing in total smartphone sales for the last 5 years. There was a little bit of a pushback after the COVID, but normally from 2018, the global smartphone sales is going down. And literally for me, as a big Apple fan in terms of their business approach, I know that they're doing great in terms of anticipating trends and not only the design trends, but also the business trends. They're doing a great business. And I just understood that at some point of time, they need to come up with the next thing, like next big thing to do. And their bet is definitely those VR, AR, like, and they call it like a spatial computing. Uh, to be honest, I mean, like, and even Apple admits that we're not there yet. We're not ready. Like, Vision Pro is not become like a you know overall device. Nobody's
Yeah.
used it. I mean, like across the gigs. But specifically for me, it's telling that we are in the process of looking into this, and there's a lot of companies who is doing research. Apple is not completely abandoning the Vision Pro, so they're creating the new version. They're just announced like literally yesterday the updates to the Vision iOS, etc., etc. Meta, they're also kind of doing the research in that place. They're introducing like a Meta and Ray-Ban collaboration, which makes the whole thing much more lighter, easier, and then more important to use. And I think that definitely, same as I said, like with an example with Henry Ford, there was a shift in paradigm. Like horse as a platform
Right.
already, made everything they could, and right now we need to have to do another thing. And in this case, I think it will happen within the next maybe 5 or 7 years, because like literally the same with an iPhone. Like Apple, they're not just creating a very new reality; they are taking the reality which is being forced, which is being kind of in a great dynamic, and just creating something which is much better experience to this thing. And I think like with the Vision Pro, I think the technology will go up and it will evolve something naturally in this case. For collaboration between VR, AR, and AI, I would say that this is a great thing to do because specifically right now, that thing will allow AI agents and overall AI things and products to get much deeper context of what specifically they're planning to do. So we will literally present it in eyes to AI agents. And right now they only have like a data stream. Specifically, we work with text, we work with data, we work with maps, with the composition of the great AI and AR tools. And when it will be widespread, all the AI agents potentially will have much deeper understanding of what our reality looks like, what to do with them. And for example, if you ever used the video mode for the ChatGPT, it's completely amazing. So you're just pointing things. You could, ask them what the dog breed is that, like, do I need to, how can I change the bulb, etc., etc. And this is already a very interesting experience. The only thing is that iPhone or any other phone is not very designed for that type of an experience. It's a little bit hard to do that. And in this case, for example, if we can imagine that tomorrow Meta will present the new super light version and super powerful version of Meta and Ray-Ban collaboration with all those AI ChatGPT possibilities, it will literally be the thing from scientific movies like Iron Man, like the
Yeah.
glasses from Tony Stark
Yeah.
specifically. That's the future, and I think in this case it's pretty amazing because that's for me. I'm a big fan of all the Fantastics, all the cyberpunk things, and for me it's like literally a very great manifesto that the world is moving there, and I really anticipate all those things to
Yeah.
happen.
No, my goodness. No, my quick thoughts on that, because I think it's fascinating. You brought up a lot of different topics there. Fortunately, Apple, I'm a fan of Apple in terms of what they've done originally, but at this stage, they've become less innovative, and unfortunately, they're falling behind when it comes to AI. AI is the thing, and even at the developer conference that came out, whatever, this past week, the net result, everyone's like, oh my gosh, you guys have got to do something in this space, and they haven't moved forward. They came up with a new design for how the iPhone's going to work, and that's great, but that's not the direction of where things are going. Um, their Vision Pro was a fantastic device, but $3,500 US. heavy on the face. They'll get there. They will get there. They're all going to get there. There's going to be, my vision, two different paths here. One vision is that you're going to have the augmented reality glasses, like the glasses you're wearing right now, but you'll be able to have things right in front of it. So you'll be able to do that with your daily walk around. And then you're going to have the immersive experience, which people will use for work. And I think they will probably be like that for a long period of time before you get to the contacts. And what's going to be really cool, and I look forward to it, hopefully, is that Google should be coming out with something with Samsung in the course of the next 3 months. And that's supposed to be that next iteration of exactly what we just described. And there's a lot of them competing for the same sort of thing. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Anton, thank you so much for your time today. That was fantastic. Love hearing about what you guys are working on, especially in the context of that versus like development, app development, how developers are going down this space. It's fantastic to hear about. So thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you so much for inviting. It was really nice to talk to you.
Tech Snippets Today with Joseph Raczynski.